VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
And thank you for joining us on Crosstalk here on the VCY America Network. My name is Jim Schneider, and today we are going to focus on the battle for life as we have an expose today on Planned Parenthood. Who are they? What's this organization about? What is its plan, indeed? What is its purpose? To join us in our discussion, Mark Crutcher with us, the founder and director of Life Dynamics, widely recognized as one of the most innovative and professional pro-life organizations in America. Mark may be best known for his bold undercover operations that have exposed shocking and even illegal activities inside the abortion industry. It was a Life Dynamics sting that caught Planned Parenthood and others in the abortion industry operating a nationwide pedophile protection ring, and another one that documented how abortion clinics make extra profit by selling the baby parts, the body parts of the babies that they kill. Well, the success of Mark's covert surveillance efforts led one New York newspaper to label Life Dynamics as the CIA of the pro-life movement. Mark, thanks for joining us today.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
After inviting you on the program, I had some second thoughts here just in the last half hour. As I was looking at Planned Parenthood's website, they have some profiles of their 15 leading anti-choice organizations, of which Life Dynamics is listed, and said that you get yourself involved in espionage, frivolous malpractice suits against abortion providers, harassment and intimidation of clinic clients and employees, misrepresentation, and public misinformation. Mark, you're one bad guy.
I'm dangerous, aren't I?
Yeah. See,
and to think I'm at large. I'm just running loose out here.
Yeah. You know, there are so many battles that are going on state by state in which we are seeing Planned Parenthood, the subject of legislative matters, even on a federal basis. And regard to the use of taxpayer dollars to fund Planned Parenthood, our own state of Wisconsin, our pro-life governor, under attack by Planned Parenthood because of his pulling taxpayer funding and other pro-life legislation he signed. I think it's important for us to go back and review who is Planned Parenthood, what's their agenda, why all the controversy. So, Mark, if you would begin to us by telling us about the founding of Planned Parenthood and its founder.
Well, Planned Parenthood originally started out as an organization called the American Birth Control League, and it was founded by a eugenicist/racist named Margaret Sanger. And they started pushing an agenda that's primarily designed as an instrument of the American Eugenics Society. They were very heavily tied to them. And their goal was to eliminate primarily what they called the unfit from producing more of, quote-unquote, their kind. And again, it's a very eugenicist-based, racist organization. They had some ties, which we documented in a documentary that we've recently produced, to the Nazi Party, and of course, as you can imagine, by the mid 1940s, the Nazi atrocities were becoming pretty well known around the world, and Planned Parenthood needed to separate themselves from their association with these people and with other eugenics-based organizations. And they had done some research and shown that words like population control and birth control and just control in general were starting to have a bad connotation to them, and that the public was more sympathetic to words like planning. So in the mid-1940s, the American Birth Control League changed its name to Planned Parenthood. But their goals didn't change. The same people were still in charge, the same racist, the same eugenics crowd was still running the organization, and they proceeded from there to what we see today. And it's amazing the influence that this organization has had, given the sheer evil that they represent. This is a purely evil organization with evil intent, and it always has been, and they've never disavowed themselves of the racist origins of Margaret Sanger or the American Birth Control League. They've never disavowed that. Matter of fact, they're their national award, their biggest national award that they currently give and have for years is the Margaret Sanger Award. So they celebrate it, but they're much more politically correct about it today than they were in earlier days, because they recognized that their agenda had some real public relations problems if left unvarnished. So they've shined it up over the years, but it's still basically the same thing.
Well, you mentioned they give out this Margaret Sanger Award, and she indeed had despise for the African American community. Is there any connection between this, the origins of Planned Parenthood, and why Planned Parenthood today targets minority neighborhoods with their clinics and abortion centers?
Oh, absolutely. And again, we just recently produced a documentary called Maafa 21, Maafa 21. And it's about the history of the eugenics movement in America, and showing how it's related to Planned Parenthood and how this continues to this very day. But they have overtly targeted the African American community especially, and now they're moving over into targeting the Hispanic community. And we did a research project on this and released a report on it that people can read for absolutely free. They can go to one of our websites called prolifeamerica.com, and it's called Racial Targeting and Population Control. And it shows exactly how this is continuing to be done today. I will tell you this, Jim, and I would be happy to debate anybody who would challenge me on this. Planned Parenthood is as racist an organization as the Ku Klux Klan. The difference is that they're much more effective. They have done things that the Ku Klux Klan could only dream about doing. And they put a happy face on it, so to speak. I often say that that's what Planned Parenthood has done. They put a happy face on their racism and their eugenics. And that's what's allowed them to accomplish this. I mean, you and I both know, Jim, that if all of a sudden it was revealed that the U.S. government is funding the Ku Klux Klan, there would be riots in the streets. I mean, the uproar over that would be enormous, because everybody knows what their agenda is. And yet, on a federal level alone, not counting the states, but the federal level alone, today Planned Parenthood receives more than $1 million every 24 hours from the U.S. taxpayer, and their agenda is almost no different than the Ku Klux Klan. They're just better at it.
Why are we not hearing this from the Jesse Jacksons and the Al Sharptons out there?
Because they've been sold out to this. And interesting you should bring that up. In Maafa 21, we document that back in the 1960s, Jesse Jackson was speaking out about this. He was saying exactly to you he was saying exactly at that time what I'm saying to you right now. He was making this very point. But when the time came that Jesse Jackson wanted to be president, and he was going to run as a Democrat, and the Democratic Party had completely sold out to the eugenics movement in America, Jesse Jackson instantly changed his tune. I mean, this was a man who was very eloquent in speaking out in the 60s and up until the early 70s about the issue of eugenics and birth control and abortion and Planned Parenthood and how this was all tied together. But suddenly, when he wanted to be president, he completely flopped. And, you know, people like him and Al Sharpton and others that are basically what I call race pimps, they have shown this tendency over the years for their own personal aggrandizement and their own personal political and financial futures to be willing to sell their principles down the river, and they've done it over and over again.
You've mentioned Maafa 21, and this really is a full expose on this topic here. How is it our listeners can obtain that?
Well, they can go to the Maafa 21 website, or they can just type in blackgenocide.com, and it will take them to the Maafa 21 website, or they can just go to maafa21.com as well. It's MAAFA21.com. And they can either order the DVD there now for $9.95, or they can watch it online for free. But that's, again, at MAAFA21.com. And I think we left no holes in the story. There are no gaps. We connected all the dots and showed clearly the racist agenda behind Planned Parenthood.
Has Planned Parenthood brought action against you because of this?
Oh, no. I wish they would. If they were to do so, and this is the reason they won't do so, but if they were to do so, then we would be allowed to have what's called discovery in trial. And that's what Planned Parenthood cannot face. So they're never going to bring a lawsuit about this. There's no way. And the fact is that in a lawsuit like they might bring, it's a legal principle that truth is an absolute defense. You can say anything you want to about someone else as long as you can prove it's true. And we did several years' research on this, and you can see the product of that research in this documentary, Maafa 21. And so we've got the proof that what we're saying is true. So that's going to keep them from suing us. And the fact that they don't want to get discovery, have to go through the discovery process, that's going to prove that that's going to keep them from suing us as well. So that's not a concern of mine. I wish they would sue, to be honest with you.
Again, folks, that's Maafa 21, MAAFA21.com, Maafa 21. Mark, give us an idea. How many babies are killed, babies killed in the womb under the auspices of Planned Parenthood?
Well, totally, Planned Parenthood is the nation's number one abortion profiteer. They kill more babies than any other single organization in the country. Right now, our abortion rate in America is about 1.1 million per year. So we're talking about 3,500 babies a day are snuffed out in the womb. And the number one profiteer from that is Planned Parenthood. They do about 350,000 abortions a year by themselves.
Your organization has launched undercover stings related to Planned Parenthood. What did you find?
Oh, we've found a lot of things, and we're working on one. We're doing one right now that I think is going to even reveal more of the problems associated with this organization. But we were the organization that went undercover and discovered the trafficking of body parts. This is a secondary profit center for the abortion industry in America, not just Planned Parenthood, but the clinics we happened to be undercover in at the time, and we were undercover in one particular clinic for over 31 months, and it was a Planned Parenthood facility. But we documented that they are chopping the babies up that they kill in abortion and selling them for parts. There's a lucrative market for the parts of these babies. And we've recently seen, just last month, a report out of Australia that this market is international now. There's been Australians have discovered that the same thing is going on there. And we knew that it was going on not just in the United States, but in Canada and in certain countries in Europe at the same time as well. So we knew it was international, but now it's starting to be discovered in other places. But we also have found out another sting operation that we conducted.
I'm going to have you pick that one up on the other side of the break. Mark Crutcher is with us here today. He is founder and director of Life Dynamics, and we're talking about Planned Parenthood. Who are they? And Life Dynamics certainly has done some undercover stings. We're hearing about that, but we're also going to hear about some recent things going on in our present-day society as well. This is Crosstalk on VCY America.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, scientist and creation author at the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, what is meant by being created, quote, after their kind, as we see in Genesis chapter 1?
Chris, evidently God created the animals in separate categories. Dogs and cats are different. There's a lot of variety among each, but there's nothing in between. God created each one after that kind. Of course, evolution thinks that all of life came from a common ancestor, that one kind morphed into another kind. A lot of Christians even think that evolution was the mechanism that God used to create. But I think the Bible is quite explicit here. It says 10 times in Genesis chapter 1 that God created the various plants and animals after their kind. They did not evolve one from another. Evolution was not the mechanism that God used to create. He created things after their kind, and He did so back in Genesis.
For more information, visit our website at icr.org. I'm Chris O'Brien. Thanks for tuning in.
Who is Planned Parenthood? Why all the uproar taking place in states across the nation? Why has Congress said we need to launch investigations into Planned Parenthood? What's going on here? Well, we're talking today with Mark Crutcher from Life Dynamics. He certainly has made the list of Planned Parenthood's leading anti-choice organizations as they profile 15 different groups. And Mark's organization, Life Dynamics, has done some undercover sting operations to expose what is taking place within Planned Parenthood. And Mark, just as that break was coming upon us, you were telling us about a second operation. Not only have we seen the horrendous body parts for sale, but you've uncovered more.
Oh, yeah, we've uncovered a lot of different things. The two primary ones are the body parts thing, and then also the pedophile protection racket that Planned Parenthood is running. We knew that this was going on, that, people may not realize this, but we talk about all the time this epidemic in teen pregnancy that besets America. We have the highest teen pregnancy rate in the industrialized world. And we now know, we started doing some research on this subject several years ago, and we know one aspect of this is that most people think that the teen pregnancy rate in America is being driven by children having sex with children. The reality is that the conservative estimates are right now that between 60 and 80% of all unmarried teenage girls who get pregnant were impregnated by adults. It is statutory rape that is driving America's teen pregnancy epidemic. And one of the things that I got to thinking about was that all 50 states have what are called mandatory reporting laws, in which some adults, in the case of healthcare workers, all healthcare workers are mandatory reporters and required to report any reasonable suspicions of child sexual abuse. Well, if you have, and Planned Parenthood admits that somewhere around 30, or the abortion industry admits that somewhere around 30 to 35% of all of their clients, their customers for abortion, are underage. So those should be mandatory reporting situations, because you can't have a state say that a girl under a certain age cannot consent to sexual activity and then have her seek an abortion or a pregnancy test or treatment for an STD or birth control and not know that she's a potential sexual abuse victim because she's having sex without the ability to consent to it because she's too young to. So what we started doing is doing some research behind the scenes to look at whether these Planned Parenthood facilities and other abortion clinics were actually turning these situations over to the authorities to be investigated for potential sexual abuse. And what we discovered is that in almost no cases are they doing this. So we set up a sting operation in which we had an actress, a young lady who was 24 years old, but she has the voice of a 10-year-old. And we had her portray a 13-year-old girl pregnant by a 22-year-old adult male seeking an abortion in order to conceal this sexual activity from her parents and from the authorities. This was her story. We called every Planned Parenthood and National Abortion Federation facility in America. There's 906 of them that we identified. We were actually able to make contact with 813 of them. Some of them had gone out of business, and some of them will go together and use one appointment line for several clinics. So that reduced the number from 906 to 813. This process took us almost 3 months in early 2002. And we had this girl call these facilities with this story. Now, this is a mandatory reporting situation in all 50 states for a 13-year-old girl to be sexually active with a 22-year-old man. 91% of those facilities, of the 813 facilities, agreed to help her conceal the relationship, despite the fact that a very high percentage of them would tell her things like, look, darling, that's statutory rape, that's sexual abuse. We're required by law to report that. However, we don't report anybody here. We've never reported anybody here. Or when you come in here, don't use your real name, or don't tell us your boyfriend's age, or don't use his name. Just don't give us that information when you come in. Fortunately, in Texas, it is legal to record phone conversations as long as one person on the line is aware that the call is being recorded. So all 813 of those calls were recorded. And the results of this are absolutely breathtaking when you hear these phone calls. And people can hear them. We have another website where people can go and listen to these calls and read the report that we made about this investigation that we did. It's called childpredator.com. And if they go to childpredator.com, they can read the report and they can listen to the calls, all 813 of them. They're broken down by state. And when you go to the state, they're broken down by city. So you can find all the calls there. And the bottom line is that Planned Parenthood and National Abortion Federation facilities are operating a nationwide pedophile protection racket that protects the men who rape children. And that's what they're doing, and there's lots of money in it, and of course that's always the motivating factor here. But we proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that that's what's happening. And I'll go back to the lawsuit issue you brought up earlier. I have done hundreds of shows like yours talking about this issue, and on every single one of them, I always make the statement that Planned Parenthood and the National Abortion Federation their facilities are operating this nationwide pedophile protection racket. If that were not true, they would have sued me within the first 30 minutes after I said it the first time. But since 2002, I've been saying this on hundreds and hundreds of these shows, and I've never had one single inquiry from either their attorneys. They've never sued me. And again, they know good and well that I can prove that what I'm saying is true. They are operating a pedophile protection racket that protects men who rape children.
Mark Crutcher,
and they're doing it with tax dollars, Jim.
My. Well, Mark, and we'll get more into that here in a moment. One of the things that we've observed over recent years is the number of pro-life groups that have been involved in something called 40 Days of Prayer to End Abortion, but a new twist has come out recently with a Planned Parenthood facility initiating something they're calling 40 Days of Prayer, supporting women everywhere. Let me just quote from a few of their Days of Prayer requests. Day 4, today we give thanks for the doctors who provide quality abortion care and pray that they may be kept safe. Day 5, we pray for medical students who want to include abortion care in their practice. May they receive good training and find good mentors. Day 6, we pray for blessings upon the women who pass through hostile protesters on their way into an abortion clinic. May they be shielded from physical and emotional harm from those who do not know them. Day 17, we pray for increased financial support for low-income women to access contraception, abortion, and child care. Day 27, we give thanks for abortion providers around the nation whose concern for women is the driving force of their lives. Day 34, we give thanks for abortion escorts who guide women safely through the hostile gauntlets of protesters. Mark, what's your reaction to this?
It's absolutely and completely unsurprising to me. You have to understand something, Jim. These people realize that what they're doing is intrinsically evil, and they need some way to try to cover that up. And they've tried this strategy in the past. They've tried strategies like this in the past. These people are the people out there who are doing this, and the people in this country who claim that they can be pro-choice and a Christian are heretics. 100% of them. You cannot be pro-choice and be a Christian. And what you're seeing here is the heretical activities of these people. This is absolutely outrageous. But, you know, if they want to delude themselves and trick themselves into believing that this is legitimate and that what they're doing is Christian-based or whatever they want to believe about it, that's their business. We can't stop them from doing that. But we can continue to do the things that are causing the American abortion license to crumble right in front of our eyes. And even they are making statements that that's what's happening. They understand that they're losing. And so they're swinging for the fences, and this is just another example of it. And I would urge people that are pro-life not to get too overly excited about these sorts of things. These are the sort of things you can expect from these kinds of people. But when you've deluded yourself into believing that you can be pro-choice when the choice that you're talking about is the intentional slaughter of a human being, when you can be pro-choice and be a Christian at the same time, then you're capable of doing something like this. You're capable of doing anything once you've crossed that boundary.
Last Friday, the Obama administration hired the former top spokesman for the Planned Parenthood abortion business to be the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs at the Department of Health and Human Services. There's an attorney with the ACLJ, Jeffrey Surtis, and he said HHS might as well rename itself, for it's fast becoming the U.S. Department of Planned Parenthood. What do you know about this, the new spokesman? What do you know about this appointment?
I don't know anything in particular about this particular person, but none of this, again, this is not surprising. You're talking about an administration that is the most radically pro-abortion, pro-eugenics, racist administration in American history. They have had a relationship with the abortion lobby that is absolutely obscene, and they've had it since day one. They've had it since before Obama was elected president. So none of this surprises me in the least. You just had a situation in Florida, for example, where Eric Holder, Attorney General, went after a woman named Susan Pine, charging her with federal charges under the FACE bill. A federal judge just threw it out, and in his opinion, throwing this bill out, this charge out against this woman, all she was doing was walking back and forth on a sidewalk in front of the abortion clinic. But the sidewalk also goes across a driveway. And what they were saying is by her walking back and forth across that driveway, she was blocking the entrance to that abortion clinic. It was the most outrageous thing you've ever heard in your life. And the judge that just threw it out last week chastised the Justice Department and Eric Holder, saying there was absolutely no basis for this, and he's at a complete loss to figure it out other than what he called the cozy relationship that existed or exists between this particular abortion clinic and the Justice Department.
The judge said that?
The judge said that. Now, when you have a federal judge that goes to that extent to throw this case out, they awarded her $120,000 in legal fees, this woman, Susan Pine, and threw this case out, and the judge goes to the point of making that statement. To me, the American people ought to be absolutely outraged at this. $120,000 isn't a whole lot of money in the general scheme of things of our budget, but we're not in the position right now, economically in this country, where we should be paying out $120,000 just because Eric Holder and Barack Obama want to turn the United States Justice Department into a private police force for the abortion lobby, which is exactly what they're doing.
Mark
and
Crutcher,
if he gets reelected in November, I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to get a lot worse.
Mark Crutcher with us here from Life Dynamics. We're going to take a quick break, and we've got a couple more questions for Mark, but let's get on board. If you have a question or comment you'd like to make, our number 800-733-9829, 800-733-9829. You're listening to Crosstalk on the VCY America Network.
Is America on a collision course with God? In the book, As America Has Done to Israel, author John McTernan indicates there is a direct correlation between the alarming number of massive disasters striking America and our leaders pressuring Israel to surrender her land for peace. Costing hundreds of lives and causing hundreds of billions of dollars worth of damage, dozens of disasters, including devastating earthquakes, raging fires, hurricanes, floods, and tornadoes, have hit America, and always within just a short time after putting pressure on Israel. The book not only points out the correlation to these events, but also gives guidance as to what you can do as an individual, and what America can do to change the direction of our country in relation to Israel. Copies of the book, As America Has Done to Israel, are available for a donation of $17 or more to VCY America, and can be obtained by calling 1-800-729-9829. That's 1-800-729-9829.
This is Crosstalk on VCY America, as we're talking today with Mark Crutcher regarding Planned Parenthood. And Mark, we are seeing that there's an outrage that's been brewing and growing inside Planned Parenthood because of their loss of funding that is being pulled from them from a number of different states. We know there's different states that are in different levels of this right now. Some states even this very week considering the pulling of funding for Planned Parenthood. And they are saying, hey, this is putting low-income women at risk. They're going to have less access to mammograms and life-saving screenings. What's the truth here? Well,
I'll just use Texas as an example, because Texas is further down the road on this than anybody. We have actually here the Obama administration has pulled all funding, health care funding to Texas because we will not give any of that money to Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is trying to, and its minions are trying to paint this picture that low-income women in this country, without Planned Parenthood, will have no one to turn to for health care. In Texas, there were 2,400 facilities that receive state funds to offer health care to women. 55 of them are Planned Parenthood facilities. The Obama administration is saying we are going to take money away from all 2,400 of those facilities because you won't give it to those 55. Now, my question is, Planned Parenthood goes out here and tells this lie, and they've been telling it now for several years, that only 3% of their business is abortion. Okay, let's just say for a moment it's not a bald-faced lie, which it is, but let's say that it's not. If you're a Planned Parenthood defender and you're saying that only 3% of your business is abortion, why not give up that 3%? Because without that, then you can still get the federal funds. What's the problem? So it's not the taking away of federal funds or state funds from Planned Parenthood that causes these women not to get health care. It's Planned Parenthood's refusal to get out of the abortion business that causes those women not to get that health care. And this situation that's going on in Texas right now is a classic example of that. Only 55 facilities out of 2,400 are Planned Parenthood facilities, but the Obama administration is going to take funding away from all 2,400 of them to protect the 55 abortion clinics.
Here's another issue here before we get to the phones, and that is oftentimes we hear Planned Parenthood say abortion should be between a woman and her doctor. Keep the state out of the bedroom. Yet, according to a recent article on lifenews.com, it's being reported that Planned Parenthood affiliates of California have launched a radio ad to generate support for legislation that would allow non-doctors to perform early-term abortions. Isn't this doublespeak?
Well, it's classic Planned Parenthood deception. First off, them claiming that we should keep women, the government out of the bedroom is pretty weird. I don't know of any abortions that go on in bedrooms. But as far as this situation in California, the California Medical Board has been looking the other way for years at the fact that abortion clinics out there are already allowing non-physicians to do abortions. What they're trying to do now is codify it into state law, so that if you happen to have a future governor or attorney general there who might actually enforce the law that exists on the books right now to keep non-doctors from doing abortions, that you wouldn't be able to do that if this law were to pass. So, in effect, it's already happening. Of course, it will be more broad if this law does pass. But it is the height of hypocrisy. If you go back and you look at the history of the battle over abortion, that these people have, from day one, said that the motivation for legalizing abortion is so that it can be done in proper medical facilities by licensed physicians instead of back alley abortionists. That has always been their argument. The reality is that there's been many studies, and I wrote a book years ago called Line 5 that documented this issue. There's been studies by even pro-abortion organizations that showed that the vast majority, virtually all, illegal abortions prior to Roe were done by doctors who were simply breaking the law. So it isn't like we moved it from this Hollywood myth that they created of the dirty old man with a filthy mattress in some abandoned warehouse somewhere with some frightened 15-year-old on the mattress, and he's doing an abortion on her. Most of them were done by doctors who are breaking the law. If they get what they're wanting, which is, and they're openly stating this and have been stating it for years, that non-physicians would be allowed to do abortions, the irony is going to be that we're going to wind up with a country in which a higher percentage of abortions are going to be done by non-physicians than were done by non-physicians prior to Roe versus Wade. That's what we're headed for. And to suggest that these people have the interest of women at heart when they do this is obscene.
Ladies and gentlemen, our telephone number, 800-733-9829, 800-733-9829. Let's go to Marshfield, and Kathy, you're on the air.
Hi. I have a true life story. My ex-husband impregnated two of my daughters. One of my daughters, he took out of state to have an abortion. The other time he impregnated her, he gave the baby away. Planned Parenthood does not have to get involved with protecting these pedophiles. These pedophiles should be kept under lock and key and away from everybody else. And I don't understand why that the effects of abortion aren't brought up as much more as they should. Right now, my daughter, she was 15 at the time. I don't know where she is. I don't know if she's alive or dead. Since her father molested her and did that, her life has been devastated. Our whole lives have been devastated. But I want to know why they don't bring that into the picture, because it not only destroys a person that has abortion, but it destroys their family. It puts them through an emotional roller coaster. And like I said, I don't know where my daughter is. She left home and she's in her 20s now, and I don't know if she's alive or dead.
Mark, your thoughts on this issue?
Yes. Kathy, first off, let me say how sorry I am for this situation, and people need to understand that the situation that you just described is much more common than is known by the public. We are doing a report currently on that very issue that we'll be releasing in the next couple of months. We've been working on this now for several years, and this goes back to, it's related to the report that I told you that we've done in the past on the child predator issue, and I would encourage you to go to childpredators.com and read our report on this. But this is a major, major problem, and we have been doing research now on criminal cases in which men have been convicted of having sex with children, and during the trial it would be revealed that these children had abortions, and no report was ever filed by the abortion clinic, which would be in violation of state law and would have protected these children from future abuse. And very often one of the things that we see is that you'll have men who are, this is very common amongst, and you have a high divorce rate in this country, and his stepfathers that are having sex with these little girls. And very often you'll have an older girl that they'll be having sex with. She'll get pregnant. They'll take them to an abortion clinic. No report is ever made. And the end result of that is that there'll be more abortions in the future, and usually it'll be a younger daughter who would have been protected had Planned Parenthood and the rest of the abortion industry done the mandatory reporting that they're required to do by law.
Yes, I agree 100%. I want to do something for this cause, but then if it dredges up a lot of horrible memories that I really don't want to dredge up. Because
that's the problem, Kathy. This is a distasteful thing, and this is what helps Planned Parenthood get away with it, because nobody wants to talk about it. It is so unsavory and so distasteful that people just get very uncomfortable talking about it. But we have to talk about it because Planned Parenthood is mobbed up in this up to the eyebrows. They are protecting these men who rape these children, and they're doing it for financial profit.
Now, who would you suggest I get in contact with, Congressman or Planned Parenthood or who?
Well, I mean, I'd be happy to talk to you if you'd like to call our office. I'd be happy to visit with you about that. But we are very shortly going to be releasing this report, and there's some things that are going on right now that I really can't talk about that are currently happening regarding this issue and abortion clinics in America that the Obama administration is directly tied to. that are doing this very thing that we're talking about that you're describing.
Could you give us a point of contact for Life Dynamics?
Yeah, she can go on our website, prolifeamerica.com, and there'll be contact information on there. And I'd welcome her to call me, and we could talk about that and see how we could help her.
prolifeamerica.com. Kathy, appreciate that. Mark, somebody mailed to us recently a copy of our hometown newspaper, Milwaukee Journal, from Sunday, June 15th, 1975. This just came in just within recent days, and they did a full puff piece, Abortions and Where to Get Them. Early abortions available at Milwaukee outpatient clinics. They go through the clinics, the cost, the doctors, etc. But here's a subtitle, A Few Minutes, a Bit of Rest, and Then It's All Over. Yep. And what we just heard from this caller right here, it's not all over.
It's never over. It is never over. I have talked to... we have an 800 number that women can call in if they need legal or medical or counseling help after their abortions. And I have talked to thousands, literally, of women over the years on that line. And I can tell you, it's never over.
Let's go to Olney, Illinois. Dorothy, you're on the air.
Yes. Since they've officially, legally established that it's not a blob, it's a human being, so that should have made it premeditated murder for anybody that does an abortion on anybody. It should be premeditated murder. And listening to you since I phoned you, tried to phone you, you've been talking about stepfathers and different things like that, and taking them out of town, having the babies and giving them away and all that. And so I thought, now, if a child that gets pregnant would keep her mouth shut until she could get to somebody like a policeman or something, then they could set a trap up to get him on tape or something that he did have sex with her or something. They could take the man that does this, these pedophiles or whatever you call these men that have to have this young woman all around, they ought to take those men automatically on the first time it's reported that they've had sex with a small child. They should castrate the man, and that would take away his desire for sex, and that would fix it for good.
Well, Mark, I know that many different thoughts on that, but certainly you're blowing the whistle on the pedophile nature of this matter. Absolutely.
And I think that these guys who have sex with these little kids and the people that cover up for them at these abortion clinics, I think they ought to be put in the same jail cells and left there till they rot.
Pro-life,
no mercy, no sympathy for them.
ProLifeAmerica.com is the website. You've also mentioned BlackGenocide.com, ChildPredator.com, and Maafa21.com. Mark, is there another site our listeners should be aware of?
Well, ProLifeAmerica.com is our gateway website, so they can get to all of our websites from that one.
Great. So, folks, if that's the one you want to write down, ProLifeAmerica.com. Our telephone number, 800-733-9829. We'll get to more of your calls here after the break, 800-733-9829, as we talk with Mark Crutcher today from Life Dynamics about Planned Parenthood. We'll be right back.
For the Worldview Weekend Minute, I'm Brandon House. Our website's worldviewweekend.com, continuing on our list of 20 characteristics of false teachers embraced by the false church. Number 5, false teachers are arrogant and self-righteous. That's one of the characteristics. We see that right in 2 Timothy 3:2-5. It says this, "But know this, that in the last days perilous times will come, for men will be lovers of themselves." Well, that's the highest form of arrogance, is it not? Lovers of money, boasters, well, that's arrogance. Proud, that's arrogance. Blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. And look at this. This is where they are self-righteous. Having a form of godliness, but denying its power. And from such people turn away. So 5 in our list of 20 signs or characteristics of false teachers. False teachers are arrogant and self-righteous. Our website's worldviewweekend.com.
You're listening to Crosstalk here on the VCY American Network with Mark Crutcher from Life Dynamics. And right back to the phone lines we go to Jan, who is next online here. Go ahead, Jan, you're on the air.
Yes, I was just wondering about these, regular doctors who are in regular hospitals who will suggest to their patients that it would be best that they got an abortion. I know this happened to a friend of mine.
And do you have a specific question, Jan?
Yes. Isn't this illegal, or are they affiliated with Planned Parenthood, or how did they get away with this? That they can.
A doctor can offer his opinion.
They are allowed to say that it's okay, but they say it's better if you get an abortion.
Well, again, a physician is allowed to offer his opinion, but if that's the opinion that he gives to a woman, he's as guilty of the murder of that child as is the abortionist who cuts the child up. So,
whatever happened to do no harm?
That's not a guiding principle of the American medical community any longer. That went away a long time ago. January 22nd, 1973. That concept was destroyed.
Wow. Let's go to Mike. Go ahead, Mike. You're on the air.
Hello. Thanks for taking my call and all the hard work you do. Do you think that a Christian, when they use the term abortion, which is a euphemism, we should always add baby killing or child killing because it's a sin issue and a moral issue, and I believe that would pierce the heart more. And I consider them pro-death choice, and we're pro-life choice 100%, and they talk about women's rights. But what about protecting the little woman in the womb? And then the Word of God never returns void. It says in Psalm 22, I will cast upon thee from the womb, thou art my God from my mother's belly. So I believe the Word of God will never return void, and call it murder and call it killing.
Mike, thank you for the call. What about the terminology, Mark?
I have no problem with that. Technically it's not murder because it's legal. Murder is a legal definition. But I have no problem calling it murder. I've had people say, well, give me this argument that it can't be murder since it's legal. And I'll ask them, if I said to you that Adolf Hitler murdered 6 million Jews, do you have a problem with that? And they'll say, oh, no, I don't have a problem with that. Okay, well, what he did was legal. What Adolf Hitler did was legal by the laws of Germany at the time. So technically then it wouldn't have been murder, would it? But I don't have any problem saying Adolf Hitler murdered 6 million people any more than I have a problem saying these abortionists murdered these babies.
Interesting thought there. And when you draw those parallels, Mark, it really stands out. And I know a recent DVD from Ray Comfort, 180movie.com, really bears that point out as well.
Absolutely.
Mark, are you optimistic? Do you find the mindset of our nation, is it turning on the topic of abortion? Is it turning pro-life? Or do we all just give up?
No, we do not give up. I am completely optimistic. I've been at this over 30 years, and I can tell you I have never seen more pro-life sentiment in this country that I'm seeing right now. I've never seen the pro-aborts be in a bigger panic situation than they're in right now. And that's why we're seeing all this stuff. These people are panicking. They know. They see the handwriting on the wall. And they see a tsunami of pro-life sentiment going across the country. Most people don't realize this, but it's a fact. Since 1992, over 70% of the abortion clinics in this country have closed.
How many?
And over 70%.
Wow.
Of the abortion clinics in this country have closed. And they are closing in droves as we speak. They're closing every day. We are winning this battle. Don't make any mistakes about it. And we are going to win this battle in the long run. So we cannot be discouraged. And for a parallel, I would have people look at the abolitionist movement that was going after the issue of slavery back in the before 1861. In the late 1850s, they were totally demoralized because the Dred Scott decision had come along, which they were looking for a Supreme Court decision that would recognize the humanity of the African American person. Dred Scott comes along in 1857, and not only did it not recognize that, it did just the opposite. It codified slavery. And in 1857, 1858, the American abolitionists were very discouraged because of this. And many of them, even they were saying, well, this codifies slavery in America for the next 200 years. We'll never get rid of this. It's because of this Supreme Court decision, because of all the things that are happening, we'll never get rid of slavery. And yet, just a few years later, it was over. So I work in this every day. This is my passion. I work in it 7 days a week. And I can tell you we are winning, and not to be discouraged. The difference between winners and losers is winners don't quit on the 5-yard line. And you see that in sports. You see that in football games, for example. The guys that win, the teams that win, when they get inside the 20, they score, and they don't back down. And that's where we are. And we have to understand that we have come a long way since 1973, and it's been hard, and it's been brutal sometimes, and it's been very, very difficult. But we're starting to see the tide turn. Just a few years ago, the tide started turning in public opinion and in the number of abortion clinics that are shutting down. And the reason that, for example, in California, the reason they're having to push this legislation to allow non-physicians to do abortions is because they can't get doctors to do it. The great irony here, Jim, is that the abortion lobby has put all their chips in one basket, and the basket's called choice, right? They say, well, it's not a matter of whether it's right or wrong or whether you like it or not. It's a matter of choice. Except that when doctors choose not to do it, all of a sudden now we're going to have to take another tack. But choice is what's killing them. It's the medical community's choice not to get involved with this that is the number one reason that these abortion clinics are closing. Yeah. And in 1992 until today, over 70% of them have closed permanently, and they continue to close.
Mark Crutcher, our guest here today on Crosstalk. Apologize to others online here. We will not have time for further calls. But, Mark, again, give us the gateway to your ministry and to the multiplicity of pro-life efforts that you have going on through Life Dynamics.
If they can go to prolifeamerica.com, and that will get them to all the other websites that we have.
Great. Well, Mark, God bless you. Thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you for maintaining the front lines, and not just as defensive, but in taking an offensive strategy in the battle.
I will continue on, and I know you will too.
God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Mark Crutcher has been our guest here today on Crosstalk. Planned Parenthood, our topic. Thanks for joining us today on Crosstalk.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Tape Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208. Or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.